Our next stop doesn't look like much from the outside, but wait till you step inside. Look at all that gold. This is a very special church. Judy will give you the full title in Portuguese. It is
Santuário do Senhor Santo Cristo dos Milagres.
the Sanctuary of the Lord Holy Christ of the Miracles. And here he is. This wooden bust of Jesus with his crown of thorns was gifted to the nuns of the convent by the Pope way back in the 16th or 17th century. He resides in a separate sanctuary where photography is not permitted, so this photo is from the convent's website. A pious nun, Teresa, who took her vows in 1682, believed he could perform miracles and devoted her life to venerating the statue. So influential was she that her life story is depicted in these beautiful azulejos tiles that fill the entire church wall. As legend has it, during a series of severe earthquakes in the year 1700, she convinced the city rulers to march the statue through the streets of Ponta Delgada, seeking divine intervention. During the procession, a strong tremor knocked the statue off its pedestal, but when it hit the ground, all the quakes stopped. And with this miracle, the statue and Mother Teresa earned their place in the local liturgy. There's been a procession every year since then, one of the oldest in Europe, and the church goes from this to this. Wow, I had read a brief description in a guidebook, but until we walked in, we had no idea this little church was such a big deal. We also didn't know that while the church is freely accessible, entry to the sanctuary with the statue is behind the convent walls and limited to 1 hour a day from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. In a stroke of good luck, we were there at 5 o'clock, so it would be just a brief wait. We could look at these beautiful tiles all day, but let's step outside for a minute. In the square in front of the convent stands a huge stately tree with red blossoms at the top. A plaque at the base told us it's a Metrosidero, originally from Australia, and was planted in 1870. It's so massive, the city has built crutches to support the branches. Hey, if we live to be 150 years old, we would need help standing up also. At 5:30, they opened the big doors and let us in. Inside, there's a lovely little courtyard with beautifully maintained flower beds. There's also a statue celebrating Mother Teresa and a plaque commemorating the 1991 visit of Pope John Paul II to celebrate Mass in front of the statue. That must have been a big deal. And now, let's go see him for ourselves. Inside the sanctuary, there's an aura of hushed devotion. There were a handful of people at the icon, some on their knees. I'm not Catholic, so I stood quietly as Judy said a silent prayer. But I watched as an elderly gentleman was helped up off his knees, tears streaming down his face. It was a powerful and moving sight. We both felt so fortunate that we were lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time to see an artifact of such significance to the people of the island. But what if it wasn't luck? What if it was just a minor miracle? Maybe the legend is true. Well, the island does have some magnificent churches, but What about my peeps? What about the Jews? Like the Portuguese, we were everywhere, especially if it involved trade or commerce. On a quiet back street in Ponta Delgada is the last remaining synagogue in the Azores, even though there are no Jews left to pray there. In 1496, Spain and Portugal expelled all the Jews during the Inquisition, just another in a long list of places we've been kicked out of. They fled across Europe and to North Africa. They weren't allowed back until 1820, during a period of Portuguese liberalization. A group of Jewish families migrated from Morocco to the islands to seek their fortune. Many took Portuguese last names, such as Ben Saud, which literally means good health. And they prospered and they built synagogues, but you had to be discreet. Yes, practicing any religion other than Catholicism was permitted, but not exactly encouraged. So the synagogues were built inside private homes, like this one where the rabbi lived, Sahar HaSamayim, the Gates of Heaven, founded in 1836 by the Ben Sauds and others. But by the mid-20th century, the Jewish population dwindled due to emigration, intermarriage, and conversion. Even the Ben Sauds converted from fear of Nazi occupation. There weren't enough Jews to support a congregation. Still living there were the two granddaughters of the last rabbi. But when the last one passed away in 1968, the building was closed and left to decay for almost 50 years. Around the year 2000, through the efforts of the Azorean American population in Massachusetts, the Jewish community of Lisbon, a local historian, and the last Jew remaining on the island, funding was secured from the government to restore the building. It took years of restoration and sifting through rubble, but now it's a museum documenting Azorean Jewish history. Among the items recovered, prayer books, a menorah, a Torah, a Passover Haggadah in French and Hebrew, and even a bottle of Lipschutz Passover wine from New York. There was donated religious artwork, as well as the history. But most important, behind a set of doors disguised to look like a pantry was the original synagogue, restored to its former glory. Wow, looking better than it did 200 years ago, including the original 10 Commandments in Hebrew above the altar. Now it was my turn for a silent prayer honoring my people. But I wondered, whatever happened to my people? Well, the small import-export business founded 200 years ago by Abraham Ben Saud is now the largest corporate entity in the Azores, with interests in transportation, banking, agriculture, commerce, and tourism. In fact, both hotels we stayed at were Ben Saud hotels, and they were really nice. But it goes deeper than that. A 2005 study showed that 13.4% of Azorean Y chromosome is Jewish DNA, quite different from mainland Portugal. So it appears we left our mark on both macroeconomic and microscopic levels. And by the way, thanks to our grandson Ezra for the musical accompaniment. Our final stop in Ponta Delgada is a little bit far to walk, so we'll be taking an alternate mode of transportation. We're going to go on a scenic bus tour of the city and out to the pineapple plantation.
Woohoo! Can't wait to eat those tasty pineapples.
And here comes our ride now. All right, all aboard! Welcome to the Lagarta Road Train. Like so many things that are weird, wacky, but ultimately awesome, I found it on the internet. And it's a great deal. A 90-minute city tour with the pineapple plantation for only €9 a piece. And here's our driver, or perhaps we should call him the conductor.
Azorian hippie.
As you can see, we are the only people on the tourist bus, so it's a private tour.
The little bird sang. The song says the little bird sang, and it says he went to the door of your loved one. It's it's always a love story.
Waiting for the tour to begin. All right, let's go. It's a little bumpy.
Bem-vindos a bordo da Lagarta. Vamos percorrer convosco a evolução de Ponta Delgada desde o século XV até aos nossos dias. No sítio de Ponta
Actually,
Delgada,
some of those cobblestone streets were a lot bumpy. It was like being shaken and stirred. But it's a perfect day for an open-air ride, and Judy even found the song about the little bird online. So, come for the ride.
Alentejo quando canta, sei que está na solidão, traz a alma na garganta e sonho no coração. Eu ouvi o passarinho às 4 da madrugada, cantando lindas cantigas à porta da sua amada.
After a short ride, we leave the old city, pass through a neighborhood of apartment houses, and behind a low concrete wall is a series of greenhouses. We have arrived at the Plantación de Ananas dos Azores, the pineapple plantation. And visitors are welcome. Back in the 1800s, oranges were the cash crop of the island. But the trees were wiped out by a fungal infection. Those industrious Azorians figured out how to grow pineapples from South America in greenhouses, and a new industry was born. After watching a brief video on their cultivation, you can wander through the greenhouses.
Look at all these pineapples. It's amazing. They go through a 2-year process from a stick to the full fruit, and in between they have to weed them, they have to smoke them to give them the proper conditions to grow to a full-size fruit like these you see here. There's also tinier ones, but it really is 2 years from start to finish.
vejo quando canta, sei que está na solidão, traz a alma na garganta.
All those pineapples in one place is amazing, but the best thing about the plantation is the snack bar. Pineapple ice cream and drinks with crushed pineapple and cane sugar syrup. Refreshing. Just what we needed after those hot greenhouses. Of course, I had to try the fresh pineapple. The Azorean pineapples are smaller, sweeter, and less acidic than the Hawaiian ones. Here they are for sale in the local market. Petite and sweet, just like Judy. Well, we've certainly managed to squeeze a lot of sights and local culture into today.
Eu ouvi o passarinho.
But we're just getting started. Tomorrow, we'll head out into the countryside to explore the island's natural beauty.